We're live.
Excellent. I did it.
You did.
Good morning. For those of you that are joining us on Facebook, sorry, that was my first time connecting Zoom to Facebook, and that was just slightly more complicated than I thought. So I probably should have started that process about 10 minutes sooner than I wanted to go live. So good morning. Good morning, Tiffany.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Thank you. We've both had a little bit of a fun morning already, haven't we?
We have. I think it's wonderful that we're talking about stress today. And at 7:30, a crew came to cut down trees in my yard that I didn't realize was coming. So that added a little bonus stress. There's a wood chipper on the other side of the house. Hopefully you can't hear it.
Cannot. So we're great. Well, one of the things I love about working with you is every time that we connect, you always ask me what my win is. So I was wondering if you could just do a little intro on why that is so important to focus on the wins first, and then maybe we could share a win, and then we can dive into today's topic.
I would love to do that. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Dr. Tiffanie Noonan, and I'm a pediatrician, but I left clinical practice to found my company, Epic Parenting, where I help families create the connection and the relationships that they desire. And when I'm working with clients, a lot of times, most of the work that we talk about is things that are feeling challenging in areas where they're struggling. And I think it's super important for us because we're naturally designed to look for the problems and to try to work those out. That at the beginning of all of my meetings and all of my calls, I like for us to come together and actually celebrate something that we're feeling proud of or a win, because we can forget those in the day-to-day when we're caught up in everything else. We might not actually notice the positive changes. And I think as we are focusing on creating new relationships and creating lives that we love, actually giving ourselves credit and acknowledging it and saying, you know what, I am making a difference. I am doing this well. So I love to look at our wins over the course of a week and make sure that we give those some talking time and some acknowledgement in our heads. So what is a win for you, Danica, since this all started?
Right. It definitely has been a roller coaster. I think if I were to go back and look, probably each week is a different stage of the grieving process.
Mm-hmm.
Now, hindsight 2020, that I would be like, oh, week 1, anxiety, week 2, denial, week 3.
Yeah.
So that has been really interesting to watch unfold. I think a win would be that the need for perfection has definitely gone out the window. Any desires for that, or sticking to that routine, or being like, whoa, we really did it perfectly today, which is impossible to live up to. But because of where we are right now, there really just isn't any expectations for that at all. And for my personality type, that is a huge win.
That's a beautiful affects everything in life moving forward type of win, because perfection is an illusion. It's different in the eyes of everyone, and it's really hard to maintain. So if we can come to a place of saying it is perfect, that it is just is in this, and we're going through that, I think that'll help carry you in lots of things, in business and life and family. So that's a huge win.
Yeah.
Huge win. Yeah. I would say a win for us, lots of people think that my life probably hasn't changed that much, right? Because I already homeschool and I work from home, but it is very different. And a win for me is just having witnessed the way I have built my relationship with my children over the past 7 years, being able to see it in action and get more what is the word? Validation might be the word that I'm looking for, that we can thrive in times of stress, and that as a family, we can come together and air our crap and be messy, but also be happy in that time, even though it's messy. I have definitely had roller coaster days where I feel like I'm not doing anything correctly or anything well because everything is so different. And then to see my children, this is the win, to see my children have empathy and say, it's tough, mom, I get it, and you got this. Like they know who I am, and they're just great reminders that like it's okay if you're being a little messy right now. We love you, we forgive you. I think
Oh,
that's
I love
important
it.
because sometimes my stress can get projected onto other people just like everyone else's can and just like theirs can. So the win for me is just seeing, the epic parenting model in process on such a deeper level than I had probably been aware of it before.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, one of the main reasons why I reached out to talk about this topic is because I had noticed, not anybody I know personally, but just, I'm not going to lie, I've been on social media way more than ever.
Mhm.
Because, when you're not doing one-on-one massages, you have more time to pick up your phone. And I'm noticing a lot of people talking about how, their kids are handling it better than they're handling it, or they don't think their kids are showing any signs. And I'm noticing my kids are showing signs, and I don't think I'm alone. And so I'm curious, what are the signs that children will show? Because it might be different than what adults show, and the possibility that maybe our kids are showing signs and we just don't realize that they are.
Yeah. And I think that's super important. So yeah, the things I wanted to talk about today are common ways that stress can be exhibited in children. Then talk about, let's get curious about what this behavior is actually showing us. And then what can we do about it, right? Because it's great if we can recognize it, and that doesn't make it any easier. So in general, things that even may seem small to us could induce stress or create stress in children, right? So anything that leads to a change in a child's feelings or safety or security can ultimately end up being exhibited in manners where they're showing that they're undergoing stress. And sometimes we think they're just driving us crazy, or they're trying to test us, but it's actually a stress reaction. So if we even think about what's going on right now, but what are common areas that cause stress for children? Worrying about grades in school. That's a big one right now, right? Juggling responsibilities of school and home, problems in a household, right? Being aware of the fact that there's a struggle or challenge between the parents, money issues in the household, or anything that actually can feel stressful in a household is going to have some effect on the children. Negative thoughts about themselves. I can't do this. You're doing e-learning for the first time and it feels hard. I can't do this. I must be dumb. I don't know what I'm doing. Those are thoughts that they're probably not going to say to you out loud and will actually end up coming out in their behavior. And there can be, as kids are getting older, right, another common form of stress would be just their physical changes, puberty, changes in their body, money issues, and parent issues, like I said. So those are common reasons why children may feel stress. Those are, if you think about it, as I said in the beginning, changes to their security and their safety as they thought that it would look like. So what are signs that you may see? You may see a change in their appetite. So a decrease in appetite or an increase in appetite. Your child may be snacking more often. Now, this could be different than they're just home more often. There's always a joke in the whole homeschooling community that we have like pre-breakfast, breakfast, post-breakfast, lunch, the meal after lunch, the snack, and then the dinner, right? That they kind of eat all day. But if it's very atypical for your child, it could be a sign of stress. Complaints of headaches or not feeling well could be a physical example of stress. Regression in behaviors, bedwetting, sleep issues, nightmares, not able to stay asleep, or complaints of belly aches could be signs that they're stressed and they just don't have the words for it. And then bigger topic that a lot of parents may not be connecting the dots with is emotional and behavioral changes. So as I said, regression in behavior, your 6-year-old that's acting in a way that they haven't acted in several years, or feeling very clingy, a decreased interest in participating in family activities or in their normal activities, new fears that they're bringing up that you hadn't been aware of or that seem strange, or fears that you thought they had overcome. The boogeyman or person under the bed, but suddenly there's fear of the dark. Fears are coming up that hadn't been an issue before. Increased whining or anger, just acting out or being a little bit more aggressive or more stubborn than normal. Like all of these behaviors that, at a time currently during coronavirus, when a lot of us are at home and trying to multitask things, we may not be thinking about this behavior. We're just finding it problematic. And people may not be saying my children are exhibiting signs of stress, but there are certainly a lot of people on social media that are saying my kids are driving me crazy and I need to hit the whine to deal with the whining. And that is a good sign that something may be going on with your children. Have you noticed anything in your home?
Well, let me see if I can move my computer. So for those on Facebook, this is my bedroom. Harper's moved in. So she is sleeping on a twin size mattress and decorating her wall. She has been in here for 30 days since I've been home. And she talks a lot about when she's going back to school, the beach. She's very upset. The beach are closed, the parks are closed, the playgrounds are closed. And her daily concern is ice cream. So when's it safe to go get ice cream? When am I going back to work so we have money to get ice cream? Mm-hmm. My oldest is sleeping until she's almost 15. She's sleeping till 3 o'clock every day. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing I'm seeing in her. She's the checking out one. She's just in her room. And then Macy, I would say he's my sensory kid, so he's kind of under stress all the time. So the only thing I've noticed is maybe you mentioning the becoming afraid of things that they weren't afraid of before. Mm-hmm. And he definitely is only hitting the comfort food. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that we don't necessarily think about, but their behavior, it's no matter how much we think that we can protect them from it, it is stressful. So I want people to think about the fact that even if your child really complained about going to school every single day and didn't want to go, there was safety and security in that experience, right? They understood what was expected of them then. It was different. In addition, something that we don't think about is that home was not the place where they were expected to be learning. And a lot of times when they were home with mom or with dad, mom and dad were there to play with them. So they're also like, this is a new experience. If you're trying to work from home, that I'm here, but I'm not. I'm here, but I need you to do something else. And this is hard to understand and hard to process for children when we think that they should just be getting it, or we're not really addressing what the issue is. I know for my boys, they're missing their friends a ton, right? My boys are almost 10 and 11 years old. And as much as they love their family, they like their time with their friends. There's a growing independence. Mm-hmm. And I've definitely noticed for them is that they're getting a little bit more irritated with each other than they normally would, despite the fact that they always spend 24/7 together. A little bit more irritation with each other. And they'll say things that make me aware of the fact that they are thinking about about this. They'll mention things about the coronavirus, or in their play, they'll be playing zombie, where if you get the person, they get a virus, right? So you can start to see that there is some underlying thought process of trying to understand it. And those are the things, like, how many of our children are thinking, am I going to get sick? What does all of this mean? And to ignore the fact that they are going through this as well as we are is setting yourself up for creating more disconnection and struggles in your household than you need to. So all of those behaviors are things that we get to get curious about. And that's one of the biggest things that I like to talk to my clients about, or people that I work with, is it's feedback, right? One thing I want you to know right now, let yourself off the hook. If your child is experiencing stress or showing any of these signs, it is not because you as a parent are not doing a good job. It is not because you're creating something that they shouldn't. And signs of stress in any human is not somebody else's fault. It is, however, a beautiful opportunity to then be able to say, what can we do about this? How can we get curious as to what's going on underneath of it? So I always say, anyone who's ever heard me talk has probably heard the sentence that every behavior is a best attempt to get a need met. Every behavior is a best attempt to get a need met. Our behaviors are children's behaviors. And what that means is that it's not really good or bad. And if we're willing to get curious as to if this behavior is something that is undesirable, not exactly what we're looking for in our children, not exactly what we're looking for in us, because we get curious about ourselves as well, we can get curious and say, well, what could be underlying it? What is the need, the unmet need underlying this behavior that is leading to a fear or a stress? Is there some way that we can create more connection or give children more autonomy? If they feel like their world is out of control right now, maybe what we can do is come in and give them opportunities to control aspects of their life in a way that is acceptable for your family, right? That fits in. Maybe it's extra choices. Maybe it's picking, these are the activities we have to get done today. What order would you like to do them in? To get curious about, like, how can we meet that need before the behavior exhibits itself so that we can acknowledge it for our children. So curiosity, I think, is really super important, and being willing to say, I don't know what I don't know. I'm not in their head. This isn't my fault. So maybe I can just get curious and say, what could be happening right here? Another suggestion that I have for when you're dealing with this is, once you've gotten curious, acknowledge their feelings, not from a place of trying to fix it or shaming them or saying you shouldn't be worried about this, but saying, I've noticed that you don't want to participate in our family games like you used to. I'm curious, is there something you want to talk about? They may or may not have words, but I would have these conversations as early on as those 3 or 4-year-olds. They are capable of understanding what you're talking about, even if they're not necessarily capable of expressing it all to you without being prompted. But say, like, I see that you're feeling angry. What are you angry about? Or, this is hard. I get it. This is hard, isn't it? Not downplaying it, not saying you shouldn't feel that way, not saying, well, you don't need to worry about it, the adults have it, because that is taking the natural emotions that they're having and saying that maybe they shouldn't be feeling that way. And that can actually be a vicious cycle of increasing stress because they are having these feelings. So I want to give you an example that we can all probably relate to. Have you ever had an argument with your spouse, your significant other, or anyone else as an adult, and they say something to you like, you shouldn't be angry about that? Now, I don't know about you, but no one telling me I shouldn't be angry about something has ever made me go, oh, you're right. Thanks for that awareness. I shouldn't be angry. It tends to make me angrier, right? It tends to make me say, you know what, I'm not going to talk to you, put up a wall and walk away, or to fight even more for the reasons why I can feel angry. And if someone just says, I see that you're angry, or I see that you're upset, very often, and gives me the space to rant, vent, do whatever it is that I need to do to get it out, is what it takes for me to be able to say, okay, and now I'm in a place that I can do something about it. So being very conscious of not downplaying our children's feelings or emotions and making them wrong. When we don't take it personally and we realize that it's not about us, it's a lot easier to do that. And honestly, and you might be able to talk about this, you do mindset and massage and different techniques for getting present with your clients, that as the adults, it's super important for us to model what we're doing with stress. So step number one, what are you doing about your stress, so that you can then come to your relationships in a way that can be curious and cannot try to shut it down because you don't want it to trigger the stressful feelings that you're already experiencing.
Well, one thing that I'm noticing in my family is that the more time we can spend outside in our backyard, the better,
Yeah.
because the structure of the house becomes a container that holds in everything that everybody's feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And it ends up, I always say, it's like we're swimming in the soup. So we're swimming in the stress soup. And the stress soup is, am I ever going to get ice cream again?
Right.
When am I going to see my best friend? Because he lives with his great grandmother. And we're,
Right.
like,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, he's not even allowed to go on a 6-foot distance walk with us. Like, no. And so all of that emotions, plus, me, I basically have been unemployed for 30 days. Like, all of that is just stewing energetically in our house. And so the more time we can spend outside, the less of a container of that stress that we're swimming in. And I just noticed there's less meltdowns the more we are just outside in general. It's like not. And for the people who are like, what is this woo-woo-ness of swimming in energy? We all feel it, whether you believe it or not. It's, you come home from work and you walk in your house and you're like, whoa, what happened in here today? Or let's be really relevant. You walk in the grocery store.
Yeah.
This weekend. And all of a sudden your heart's pounding. You're like, is that me? Or no, it's a collection of everybody's stress. Are they going to have bread today? Are they going to have chicken? What if there's germs on the whatever? And all of that is, you walk into that like a brick wall when you walk in the grocery store. And my home can become like that. So it's like, get your butts outside and, open the windows, turn the fans on, blow the stink out.
And I think that's a beautiful point, because, and listen, I am a scientist, I am a doctor. I'll talk neuroscience with you and the frontal brain and the emotional brain. But truth of the matter is anyone who spends more than 2 minutes talking to me is going to know that I actually own my woo-woo as well. And it is part of who we are. It's not woo-woo anymore. When science says energy is an actual thing, it affects us. The energy, the vibration that we are at is going to affect the people around us. So as I was growing up, and I'm sure as many of us have had, and as many people are still experiencing, there was this thought that we shouldn't include the kids in these stressful situations, right? Like, they're just kids. They don't need to worry about it. So very often what parents will do is try to take the stressful conversations or the things behind closed doors. And if the kids are like, what's up? Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. Your kids feel your energy. They know that something is up. They know that this is weird and this is different. And when we don't acknowledge it and we're not willing to say, this is what's on my mind, this is what I'm feeling anxious about, in a way that is age appropriate and not intended to create fear in them. Very often being able to talk about this with your children is a great way for you to put it back into perspective. But when you're able to acknowledge it, you don't have kids growing up thinking, well, they say everything is okay, but I don't feel like everything is okay. So there must be something wrong with me, or it must be my fault. And internalizing those feelings, which then add to the stress. So emotion, fear, anxiety, stress, a good way to think about it is energy in motion, right? So I love what you're saying. Like, if we get outside and we can ground ourselves and we can move this energy, we will feel better. our children will feel better because it allows us to get more in the present moment. Because if you think about it, very often stress is related to the fear of what if. It is not related to the present moment. Your business has been closed for 30 days out of necessity. That will naturally, when you're thinking forward, be stress inducing, right? What is this going to mean for the future? When can we open money? Like all of these thoughts that can be stress inducing. And to be able to bring ourselves back to the, yes, this is concerning. And right now at this moment, it's a pretty day. We're okay. I have the safety and security of a home. Let's bring it back into this current moment. But then talk to our kids about what we're doing. Acknowledge, if you have a young child that's like, when are you going to go back to work? Because they realize work brings in, like they know mommy goes to work to make money so that we can have the things that we have, right? That's probably been explained to kids all the time when they're like, why do you have to go? And now they're like, now you're not going to work. The natural translation is crap money, right? Wait, that was important. It's why you always had to leave.
Right. How am I going to get my toys?
How am I going to get my toys?
Right.
To be able to say, this is different. And I want you to know that, yeah, I am a little bit scared of what it looks like. And I know that we're tough. I know that we're going to find a way through this. I always like to remind people, we have a 100% success rate in getting through all challenging situations right now. I'm not saying without pain. I'm not saying without lessons. I'm not saying without having to pivot and shift and change. But if we're here listening to this today, 100% so far that we have managed to get through the crap in our life that has gotten us here. My life has not always been rainbows and unicorns. 2 days ago, it did not feel like rainbows and unicorns when I was in my head about everything I was failing about. A good night's sleep, moving my body, a meditation, and being able to get very present was important for me. And then teaching that skill to our children. So once you've acknowledged it, like I know that you're feeling stressed, even the youngest of kids, we can say, hey, how about we practice breathing for 2 minutes? They're naturally curious. Get an app on your phone that plays the sounds of birds or chirping or whatever. And let's just inhale and exhale for 2 minutes. You might not want to try a 20-minute guided meditation, but we can help bring them down to the present moment. Go outside and play barefoot in the ground. You don't have to be explaining to your children that the grounding energy of the earth and this helps us all. Just play. Let things go for 15 or 20 minutes. My favorite thing to play outside right now is horse. I'm not good at basketball. I can't dribble and move at the same time, so I travel all the time. But I can play a good game of horse, right? I can shoot the basket without having to worry about dribble. Doing the things that bring us joy and just talking about nonsense sometimes. Like, let's just talk about the things that are fun and that are in the rest of our life, and not putting too much pressure on us. I have had to abandon game night multiple times where I'm like, this game of Pictionary, we're being mean. We're being short-tempered to each other. This is not accomplishing what we wanted. What can we do at this moment that is going to actually honor where everybody is? Pictionary doesn't seem to be the way to go in my house. We're all like, what do you mean? You think that's what I mean? Like, we're not supposed to be yelling at each other over this picture. And I got to tell you, it's not just the kids. It's when I abandoned it, I would like to say that I was in a zen place and nobody else was, but it was definitely like my husband and my 11-year-old were on the same team going at it about the quality of their drawings. And I was like,
that's why we don't
listen, anyone who knows me, I want to be honest. I literally looked at my husband and my 2 kids and I said, I don't think we can do this. Everyone is acting like an asshole. What are we going to do? And they were like, yeah, this isn't working. We get to step away.
Yeah.
Like, we're being mean to each other and we love each other. Like, this is not the place to take our aggression out on each other, but owning it and being like, okay, this just isn't working. But outside is important. And for those of you that don't feel, not everybody has a backyard that they can go and play in. But a lot of us do. But there are places where you can still take a walk. You can still maintain your social distancing and get out. And for me, one of the things to do when I'm really stuck in my head is just start pointing out the pretty things that I see with my kids. I'll be like, Look at that pretty branch. Look at the squirrel. Oh, did you see that cardinal? Like, pay very close attention to the things around us, because as much as we like to think that we can multitask, we really can't. Our brain can only focus on one thing at a time. It can rapidly cycle. It can go back and forth. But while you're pointing out the cardinal, you're not thinking about, am I going to get my small business loan? You are helping regulate yourself back down to a more neutral place, because none of our problems were solved in the state that they were created in. So if we're in stress, we are not going to find the solution to those problems. And regulating ourselves is the first key to be able to look at our kids and say, oh, I do recognize that you're exhibiting these signs, and how can I help you with that, instead of thinking that you're just an additional stressor in my life? How can I help you?
I love that.
So I did want to make a few suggestions. One, for people, if we're talking about your child is stressed and maybe it's because security, stability seems a little different, are there routines that we can put into place that may not have normally been things we would have done? So if you have a child that's exhibiting behavior of being clingy and just not leaving you alone to have the space that you need to do your work, and this isn't new for them, or even if it's not, because that's a behavior that could be problematic and lead to you getting frustrated, maybe looking at your day and saying, I see that there could be a deeper need for connection for them. Can I start my day off with 30 minutes of deep connection with my children, playing a game, having the phone off, talking to them, and kind of filling that connection cup up? And then planning, like, I loved spending this time with you, and I look forward to doing it again at lunch. I have some work to do. And then creating that space for you, but also letting them know that it's going to happen again, and then honoring your word. When you said that you're going to come back to it, could be a new way of helping them not feel like they need to cling to you because they got that attention in the beginning. So it's a new way of thinking about it. Role modeling our own stress. We've already talked about that, but really, like, how are we dealing with it? Are we, and it's okay, no judgment, are we turning to the ice cream and the snacks and numbing on Facebook and all of these other ways of dealing with our own stress? If that's what we're modeling, we can't be terribly surprised if our children are trying to numb out on video games and have zero interest in your screen time limits that are then becoming more of a problem. How can we find more successful ways for what feels successful to us, feels good to us, ways of dealing with our stress? News. We all want to stay informed. I would suggest that we probably limit the amount of news that our children are hearing, because it does not usually have the positive, there are solutions and answers to this in it that, quite honestly, I want my children to see. I have not watched the news in 8 years. I went on a 30-day news-free fast 8 years ago just to see how it felt, and I never went back. I learned what I need to learn. There are plenty of ways to get news and sources that I need to know, but I do not need to watch it every single day. So if we find ourselves getting caught up in it, maybe we get to recognize our own behavior, but then to realize kids are hearing that, and it's not usually feel good stuff. It's not usually coming at it with solutions. So if you're going to have the news on, be willing to open up the space to say, what did you hear? What are you feeling about that? And maybe consider turning it off. Keeping kids informed, I think, is important. Just pretending this isn't happening isn't going to help them. Let them know this is what's going on. We don't know when this is going to end. The anticipation is in a couple of weeks, but how can we make our life as amazing today as it can be given the limitations of what we have? We can't go to the beach, but I know I saw you making a Facebook post. We can't go to the beach. How can we make the beach in the backyard? Right. What can we do to sort of bring that in and use the just excitement of a kid to even get ourselves excited about things? Intentionally plan calm, relaxed time, reading time, lay in the hammock time, and intentionally plan, get your energy out, playtime as well. And then, like I said, increasing some choice and autonomy in our children's lives is important for all of their ages, so that they can feel that they do have some control over their life, and that they're not as resistant to what you tell them to do. because they don't feel like they ever get a say. When we actually can get curious as what can that look like? So those are our tips that I would have.
I love it. All right. Do you have any closing words? How can people reach out to you if they would like to work with you? I know they, so just so Facebook land knows this as well. I have been working with Tiffanie for, well, it's a 4-month program, but I never left.
You're not. We haven't been meeting with everything else that's going on.
I know.
Danica has not been released from the 4-month program.
But
I'm not attached to the number of days or
right
calls.
So you have an online course, a self, well, I don't know what word to use, like a self motivated. I can't think of the word right now. But anyway,
yeah, there's an online course
that people can do at their own pace. That's what I was looking for. Paced. Yeah. The word was like, woo, over here. A self-paced course you can do on your own, or they can work with you one-on-one.
Yes.
So yeah, why don't you share that information before we get off the call?
Sure. My website is www.epicparenting.org, O-R-G. Not .com, so epicparenting.org, and people can go there and they can see that there's an online course. I also occasionally run groups. I'm considering seeing if there's interest in a group. If we think about I think about finances and how can I get this work out to more people in a more readily available way. I am always open to figuring out how we can create actual transformation in families. So the online course has the same content that my one-on-one clients are going to go through, but it doesn't have the weekly support from me. Although there is a Facebook group, they can also find me at, it's Epic Moms Group. So that would be facebook.com/ or not slash, whatever that is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The backslash maybe. /groups/ Epic Moms Group to join in there and get free support at any point. I always recommend, or personally reach out to me. It is Tiffanie Deanna Noonan on Facebook. If you came to this event, you can also go through Epic Parenting, but send me a message personally or email me, Dr Tiffanie, Tiffanie. It's DRTIFFANIE at epicparenting.org. And I am always happy to create an initial consultation, spend 60 to 90 minutes talking about what you're experiencing and help you come up with solutions that are specific for your family. And I don't just say this and then pitch you and leave you in pain, right? I really mean this. I like people to reach out to me so that you're not struggling. So parting words that I would have is that if things are feeling like a struggle right now, forgive yourself. Know that it can feel better and you can create a life that you really love, and that all feelings are okay, right? So anyone who has any experience with conscious parenting or peaceful parenting, epic parenting is in the same paradigm as that. It's about creating connection. It is super important for people to know that I've seen everything, heard everything, potentially done everything. Nothing is new. It is non-judgment. I want to meet people where they're at so that they can start to move in a direction that feels better, and where you are is not wrong. It just is. And from that place, we can say, how can we do things better if it's not feeling amazing? So my parting words are, this is a tough time for everybody. You don't have to be alone. There is support that's there. Danica knows how to reach me. Danica is a wise woman. She may be able to help you on her own. She's got lots of, you don't get to be the world's most amazing massage therapist, prenatal massage therapist, without knowing how to help people come back into their bodies and to really heal. And I need Danica. I've been walking around with one of those Theracane
yeah.
poles, trying to get a spot on my back that I'm like, this is not working for me. So I might need to reach out to you and be like, what else can I do? But I feel like one of those cartoon characters that they pull off stage, but I'm not doing it to myself.
Hi, puppy.
That's it's not so bad. I'm happy nothing has fallen. We haven't had any trees fall on the roof or anything.
I mean, that's pretty impressive to have a crew in your yard, and that's the first time we've heard your dog. So
I think he gave up somewhere around 8 o'clock after 30 minutes of not effectively scaring them away.
I love it. I love it. Well, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to connecting with you soon. And I'm going to link all of those resources you just shared into the comment feed under the live stream as well. And then I will be emailing the email group, and I'll add those things when I throw this up.
Yeah. And if there are any questions that have come into the live stream, I will check later. Like, you can feel free to ask questions in the live stream, and I'll go reply to comments. And if there's anything that it looks like I've missed, just tag me to bring it to my awareness.
Yeah, and she means it. And in that first 60-90 minute one that we had, I don't even remember what mind-blowing thing you said at that conversation, but immediate results. Immediate. So
that's why I tell people I do this work because it transformed my family. It transformed me and it transformed my family. It worked. And that's how I ended up starting the business doing it, because I was a tired, stressed, overwhelmed mom who was yelling at her kids on the regular. They were 2 and 3 years old. And I was like, something has to give. And I realized all the advice I had been giving as a pediatrician did not work, and that there had to be a new way of doing it. And within weeks, I stopped yelling. And I mean, literally within like 3 weeks, I stopped yelling. At the 3-week point, I still thought I was going to have to sell or kill my kid, because I was like, this is great. I know why he's acting that way, and I still don't know what to do about it. It's going to be bad for business that I sold him. But honestly, he was a 2.5-year-old major tantrumer, and I just didn't know what to do. But honestly, about 5 weeks into literally changing the way I was thinking about things and doing this work, he stopped tantruming and looked at me and said, I'm feeling frustrated. And I was like, this stuff is amazing. And we've been talking about feelings ever since. And it's truly beautiful. It truly is possible, and it can feel good and empowering, peaceful, inspired, and connected for all of us, whatever that means to you.
I love it. Well, thank you. And thanks for joining me on your Saturday morning.
Thank you for having me. I am honored to be here.
That sounds great. I look forward to seeing you soon. I look forward to hugging you. When can I hug you?
I don't know.
Soon. I don't know. Probably another 30 days. I'll wait.
Something like that.
Yeah. All right. I'll chat soon.
Take care.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.